Right. Hi, guys. Welcome back to my channel. I am joined today by the fabulous Gordon Smith Duran. Hi, Gordon.
Hello, Karen. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining me. I have been watching you, Gordon, for almost 3 years.
Really?
I don't know where the time's gone. Obviously, when the whole everything kicked off,
Yeah.
I found you and love your videos. You have this perfect kind of balance between not too fluffy rainbow unicorn farts and not dark and depressing. You've just got this perfect balance in the middle. I find your videos funny and they always make me feel good.
Thank you. And that validates kind of everything that I always aim. I always in my mind, the intention is that when people have watched that video, that they come away feeling better. That's it. That's my
Yeah.
intention.
So how did Peaceful Rebellion start for you? What's the story there?
Well, the name came about because I during the first part of the I'm going to adjust what I say, the plan stroke demic, yeah.
Hmm.
um I decided I was going to do an album, a music album. So I collaborated with a friend of mine who does music, and we came up with this album. And as I was thinking of the name, I thought, I want rebellion, but I don't want rebellion has very negative connotations. So I wonder if I could just stick peaceful in front of it. That's what this is what we're all about. It's rebellion, but in a very peaceful way. That's what I
Hmm.
always felt. I when at the beginning I would go on a lot of where we got together in the center of Madrid and things like that, and it was always peaceful. The only non-peaceful thing were what other people were trying to do to us. But
Yeah.
so that's kind of where the name came from. But I actually, what happened was I had a channel called Heal Yourself. Yeah,
Hmm.
because I started off doing therapy called in this. It was called Heal Yourself Therapy. So that was the idea. So I kind of piggybacked that therapy channel to then start giving this message. And then I suddenly lost all of the public that I had. They go, "What is Gordon doing?" Yeah.
You had a
Um,
lot of followers.
Yeah, yes, I did. But what it was, I was catering at the beginning. I was helping ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. That was the
Hmm.
purpose of the channel, and it was kind of therapy to help people because people who come out of cults and everything. So I had this big following, but they were not necessarily awakened souls. They were on their journey, but quite wounded. And so as I started to talk about God, can you imagine people coming from a cult who really hated God? And I was starting to say, I'm getting these messages, they all disappeared. And then a new audience came along. But I was aware that I was getting what I feel was shadow banned because I'd had some videos removed for what I was saying. I was classed as hate speech. So I thought I'll just set up a new channel and see what happens. But I think they just followed me along. But anyway, that's where I set up Peaceful Rebellion, and we kind of stuck with that now.
Well, it's a great channel. If anyone doesn't know who Gordon is, go to his channel and follow him because he's fab. I was going to ask you about what's coming up in your sessions because we both practice hypnotherapy. You've been
Mm-hmm.
doing it a lot longer than me. And curious to know what's been coming up for you. What are the main kind of messages?
Okay, so primarily before I got onto this path, my work was always helping people to resolve trauma in this life, and that's still what I do primarily. But then I was interviewed by JCK. I don't know if you know JCK. And I talked about past life regression and higher self work. And man, I was bombarded with requests because we're in a time where people really, really want to get in touch with that part of
Mm.
who they are. And so I had, at one point, I was working, I had 4 months bookings, you know, and so I was just doing 2 past life regressions and higher self work each day, every day of the week. And so I was just getting these mega messages, sometimes messages for me too. But when they were connecting to the higher self, and it's still the same, the main principal message, Karen, is always everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's as it should be. Everything will get sorted. Everything's fine. And it was just this repetition, because what people would be talking to the higher self and getting into the details of their life. But when we finished, I would say, is it okay if I can have some permission to ask some questions, general questions? And it was always, what advice do you have for everybody here? We're all here and we're worried and we're going through this, what advice? And the advice always was, everything is okay. Everything is as it should be. Everything is where it is at the moment. It will all get better. Yeah. So what do you get?
Very similar. Everything as it is, as it should be. More recently, it's been about just changing your thoughts, changing your perception on your own reality. So if you're going into a negative space, notice it and flip it, which sounds easy, but actually it's quite hard. It's something I've had to practice doing myself.
Yeah. And adding to that, and this is not just the messages that I get through my clients, but also the message that I'm constantly getting is that this time there are two things happening. There's the plan that's happening and all of these changes that are happening. That's really outside of our doing. That's going to happen. And I think a lot of people are kind of stuck watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're immobile. They're just watching it, waiting. Yeah. And the message that I get always is, no, this is the time for you to start working on yourself. And it's kind of like, I think the job is that we've got to do is get you, excuse me, am I allowed to use swear words a little bit?
Please.
Yeah.
I love it when you use colorful language.
Okay. But the message, truly is get your shit sorted out. Clean out your life. Get all of your issues resolved now, because you can't take them with you into the next bit, but you need to get them resolved. And I think the faster that we resolve them, the faster that we're going to get where we need to get to, and I don't know what you feel like, but I'm getting busier and busier. And it's because everybody's realizing we're getting this new connection, whatever you want to call it, return to spirituality, return to God, whatever. And people are going, oh, I need to sort myself out now,
Yeah. I think for me, and I know a lot of people have gone through this, when you first become more aware of what's going on around you, you're kind of thrown all these distractions. And it doesn't stop. But it took me a while to get to the fact that they're just distractions, the rabbit holes. They're there to stop you from doing the work.
And I think it's a process that we've got to go through. I mean, I feel very, very fortunate that I became aware of what was going on 18 years ago. So I've had time to go down all the rabbit holes that I wanted to go down, assimilate that information, change my life accordingly, because it's all about what does that mean for me? What have I got to do now? If I find out that, that our water is contaminated, I need to fix that. And so, what we had was time to get everything in order. I feel so sorry for the people who were going like 6 months, 12 months, 2 years of like suddenly they're having to take on board all of this information. I mean, it's overwhelming. And they're going into this downward spiral of loss, which is, they've lost every single thing that they ever believed in, and it's tough for them. But then you get through that quickly. Get through that quickly, because if you hang about in that place, then it can seem very bad. I talk to people who are very doom and gloom, and that's because they're in that place, and that's fine. They've got to go through that bit. They've got to go down some rabbit holes, but then get out of the bloody rabbit holes and, and get into the nice bit, because there's a nice bit as well.
I agree. You have to go through that bog to come out again, don't you?
Yeah.
I had a lovely group here in Cambridge, like an awakened group, they called themselves. And I had to leave like 4 or 5 weeks ago because it was just the same memes, the same stuff regurgitated over and over and over again. And I just, for my own mental health, I just thought I can't cope.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people just stuck there.
Yeah, they are. And, really, it's kind of a metaphor for me, because I've spent all of the time when I've done therapy helping people. If we look on a macro level, what I believe is that everything is the process of loss. Everything that happens to us that we need to resolve. Um, and so what that never changes, that process of loss. The second step is you're in sadness and depression. That's not a place that you need to stay in, but you must go through it and you must experience it and assimilate it. But what happens is my job has been to help people who are stuck in there, stuck in sadness and depression, and help them to get to the acceptance bit, and that's all that's happening right now is that people are going through this loss process. They've lost everything. They're really pissed off, and rightly so. Rightly so. Every structure that they've built everything on in their life has crumbled, but they're stuck there. And as you say, there's grouped maybe the same memes, the same frustration, the same anger. But it's kind of like our job, I believe, as therapists, is to help them just to get through that and get through to the acceptance and then the learning, and everything. And it's beautiful after that. But we've got to, I've been told that we've got this great healing that's coming upon us, and we haven't seen it yet. But boy, when it comes, there's an awful lot of people who are going to need a lot of help.
Yeah, I think people need to be ready, though, to take that step, don't they? To realize within themselves that they need the healing.
They've got to be ready, and they've also got to be aware that there is another step. Lots of people who are in that place don't even know there's anything beyond it, and they think that they're going to be stuck there for the rest of their lives, and that's very sad. And it must be very, that people who commit suicide are still in that place, sadness and depression. That's when there's nothing else left, and of course there is. And that's why my message is very often repeating that. I want people to know that there are lots of steps after that. You don't have to be there forever, but you must go through it, and you can't skip it either. You just can't skip it. You've got to go through it.
Totally agree.
Mm.
Okay, well, that's good to know that you've been getting those kind of good messages from your session.
Mm.
So the next thing I have, okay, I'm kind of going a bit deep now.
Good.
What is this reality, Gordon, in your opinion?
Mm.
I'm on one hand, I'm like, it's a spiritual game. Okay, we've come here with all different kinds of lessons, various different reasons why we want to come here. But at the same time, I feel like maybe it's been infiltrated, like there's some kind of virus in the program that shouldn't be here.
Mm.
What are your thoughts?
Expand on that. What kind of virus do you think it is?
AI?
Okay, yeah, I hear a lot of people talking about that now. Yeah.
It's come up
Um,
in quite a few of my
mm.
sessions, some ancient AI. Is that always been here, or is it part of this reality, or what do you think?
Mm. Do you know, I think, how can I, right, let's see if I can explain myself. I am, I'm a very big picture person. I kind of keep away from the details because, I think they say the devil's in the details, but you can get quite lost in the details. And I see when I listen to all of the people, I mean, I've had people bringing messages through that totally contradict one another completely and utterly contradict one another. And so I kind of what I like to do is I like to take just one step back from that and look at it as a whole, and say, well, what is this reality? Is it reality? And I think, well, every time I fall over and I knock my head on the ground, it feels bloody real to me. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm aware that it's completely fabricated. It's completely designed. It almost, what I see is like, this is a playground that's been designed, but a really tough one, like a mega tough. It's not an easy playground. Been designed for us to evolve as souls. Part of that are all the machinations, all of the weird stuff that's going on, for me, is all part of what it is that we're supposed to experience. I mean, what have we got here? We've got total confusion, total like upsets and pain and joy and bliss, and then upset, and it's like bizarre, isn't it? It's like the most bizarre playground ever. You're constantly falling and hurting your knee. And the messages I get is that this is all part. This has been designed for us, and we've chosen to come here. Is there something going wrong with the plan? I don't get the sense that that's the case. I don't know. I see the plan going probably the way that it's always gone, which is, I see this cycle that we go through of like really, 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 really good, really good, really good Atlantis. We've got all these Atlantis, really good, really good, really good, really shit, like really quickly as well. And then dark ages, getting lighter, getting really good, really good, really good, really shit. And I think, personally, I just think we choose to plonk ourselves where we want to get the best experience from. And what better place now to plonk yourself on the earth right now? I mean, this is the place to be.
So it doesn't matter what it is.
I just think it's all part of this one game. I had one of the gentlemen who watch my channel. The emissary said life is a game. Okay, and he was not happy about that. He wasn't happy because when you hear, it's the last thing it looks like is a game. When you look at what's happening and all the people that are suffering and stuff like that. But when you take a step back, you just see it's just this. When you go into a playground, there's a lot of dangers in there, and lots of children cry and fall over and graze their knees and whatever. It's just, that's part of the going in there. But there's lots of fun as well. Lots of thrills. So I think that's kind of where we are in this place of thrills. And I was told that there isn't anywhere like the Earth plane. There's no other place that you can experience these kind of emotions, and that they're quite envious of us. We are envious of them because they're in this lovely place of like this, and we're here in the shit. but they're envious because we are able to feel what they could never feel.
I know you've explained it like a pendulum before. It's quite a good analogy. And I think the stars, the astrology, has a lot to do with this, right?
The more that I get into this, the more I see that. Do you know what I really see? And you were talking about AI. I see this all. The universe is mathematical. It's mathematical. It's a perfect working model of everything moves at the same time. Everything moves and everything's interconnected. And astrology is just this major part of like, when this happens, this happens. And I'm seeing it more and more. And I know that there's a wonderful guy here in Spain who knows a lot, and he's just forecasting what's going to happen in a generic way. Obviously not, but he's pretty shit hot. And he's only just looking at the alignment of the stars. I don't know. Have you ever had your chart done by somebody?
I got it done a long time ago, and I actually pulled it out my cupboard the other day to read through, which I haven't done yet, but it's there waiting for me to read it. I had a session done on myself 4 months ago, maybe, and it was a parallel life where I could read the stars. And
Right.
it was almost like the layer we read now is just the tip of the iceberg. There were so many layers above that we're just not tuned into, or it's been hidden, or, there was just so much more to explore in
Sure.
the astrology.
Yeah, because if you dig down, all you see are patterns and symmetry, and I've had in my ayahuasca experiences, when you get into that part, that's all that you see is the universe as in pieces all joined together, and it's incredible. I just see that as in a general form that we think things are random, And I don't really think they're that random. I think they're extremely well planned and organized, and you know, and that's hence the fact that we can choose to come here, and we choose the time that we're born, the place that we're born, the alignment of the stars, and therefore we know more or less what it is that we're going to experience, you know, or at least
Yeah.
the potential of what we can experience, I suppose.
Have you ever gone through a life between life with a client before? Has that come up?
Loads, I've done loads of those, yeah, in between lives, yeah. I used to
So,
enjoy them.
and you plan, you know, maybe your partner, when you meet them, will be wearing a particular color or type of clothing, and things that are going to trigger something in your mind, so you know that's the one.
The detail that I've had from that, I mean, this is taking my clients. I mean, I've done it myself, but taking my clients through this in between lives, the pattern, although they have slight differences, the pattern is always that they are working with a soul group, and that soul group always stays together, more or less, through the whole of the evolution. But they also have lots and lots of contracts with other soul groups. And so, and not necessarily everybody in the soul group is in the same life. They're just sharing the experience. It's almost like a way of speeding up the experience. But they're making contracts all of the time with other soul groups to make certain things happen. And I mean, the complexity blows my mind to think how all of that can be done. You know, when we look back on our lives and we say, wow, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I was today. It's like a pivotal thing. And when you look at how many pivotal things happen in your life, it's like, it's incredible. And I know it could be just chance, but I just don't get that feeling. I think it's kind of like
No.
everything is planned to a very, very fine detail.
It's amazing. Can we talk about the numbers on the back of that? Because I know you talked in a recent video about the numbers, repeating numbers. I've been seeing
Yeah.
them so much. In fact, I know that when I look at the clock, it will be a repeating number. I just know it before I've
Yeah.
even looked.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
been happening for you as well, hasn't it?
It's been happening for me for a long time, but it's getting ridiculous. Now, I mean, when I say ridiculous, it's like, come, like everywhere I'm looking, oh my goodness, double numbers, double numbers. I've just noticed this jump forward with that.
Mm.
And having, you know, in the group, in the Telegram group that we have, Peaceful Rebellion as well, lots of other people are reporting the same and showing, you know, it isn't just with the clock, it's repeated numbers in what they're seeing. And I posted a video and it was you know, 11 and it was just, but they're catching stuff all over the place and number plates. It's just bizarre.
Mm.
Now I know that when you're watching out for it, you're going to see it more, but it's beyond coincidence. It's like starting to get like very, very obvious.
Yeah. Another thing that's happening for me is if I'm just an example that happened recently, I was on a walk listening to this podcast about the Wizard of Oz, and I'm walking past a charity shop, and there in the window is a pair of shiny red shoes. This is happening to me all the time too. Things that I'm listening to or I've been talking about will just appear before me in some bizarre fashion.
Yeah, my wife's talking about that. That happens to her a lot. But I'll tell you a couple of things that have happened to both of us recently. Um, I was standing in the kitchen talking to my wife, and I said to her, when they take the mask mandate off, those lights are going on, and I pointed my finger like that. And as I pointed my finger, a light that had been off in the kitchen came on. Boom, in that second. And we went, wow, because it was like those lights are coming on, bang. Okay. Thought that's very unusual. Then we were in the I think the same night or a night afterwards, I went up to my wife and I said in Spanish, por cierto, right, which is by the way. And she went, look what I'm writing on my phone. And she was writing por cierto.
Wow.
Okay. She went, that is bizarre. And then we went into Aldi the other day and I was looking, she was over here and I was looking at the shelf and I thought, man, gnocchi, you know, gnocchi, the pasta,
Mm.
gnocchi. Haven't seen gnocchi for years. and I saw it. I went, gnocchi. We used to eat gnocchi. I wouldn't eat it now, but and I grabbed it and I turned to my wife, Cynthia, and I had the gnocchi in my hand. And as I turned, she had a packet in her hand up in the air. And we looked and I said, gnocchi. And she said, gnocchi. And so we both picked up packets. We were on opposite ends of the shop, picked up the same packet at the same time, and we said the same word together. It was just bizarre. So I resonate exactly with what you say. You hear something and you see something, but it's not like a dismiss that. No, these are mega things that are happening.
And it's not the phone listening to you, right, and showing you an advert on your computer.
No, it's not.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah,
but it's almost like the human version of that, if that makes sense.
I think that they copy. They've copied that. They've copied that because what happens? We've always been like this, you know. When we see something and we take that as a sign, we've always been like that, you know, as people, as a race. They've kind of piggybacked that and think if people speak about it and then they see it, they'll take that as a sign as well. But that's the falseness of them. They're, you know, that's what the baddies do, isn't it? They invert everything and they laugh at it. But no, this is really happening. This is really happening in a very, very big way at the moment, more so than ever.
So why do you think that is? Is it because we're doing all this healing and clearing, or there's just more light coming down to earth, or a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of everything, Karen. I think we're getting very close to the tipping point of moving into the age of light officially. We're very close to that. And so just as a matter of course, the vibration and the frequency is increasing. And as it increases, we start to see, I mean, it's all about, we're in the age of revelation. We're seeing things that we've never seen before, the good and the bad. You know, and, you know, unfortunately, we've got to see the bad before we can get rid of it. But it's the same with the good. It's all, I see the universe as I say, this perfectly tuned mechanism that's moving. And as we change frequency, we're just moving into a different place where we can create. Remember, we're creators. And, you know, we come from source. And so as we get into the age of light, then we become more creators and we can create things like that. We don't even know what our capacity is right now. We've got a much bigger capacity than we give credit for.
Yeah, well, these examples we've just given are just a tip of the iceberg, aren't they?
Yeah. But I believe now, if two things have got to happen, I think, to really get a shift going. One is we've got to start realizing how powerful we are in terms of creation. And then the other thing is we've got to start working together to create, really. And I think I was saying, I don't know whether it's a video I haven't published yet, but I was saying the baddies are doing a far better job at bringing the golden age forward than we are at the moment. We're a bit scattered. We're a bit like, ooh, you know, and everyone's at different levels and everything. When we get our shit together, when we start working together, we will bring this at a speed never before seen. We just need to, but it'll happen when it's got to happen. It's just not right to happen yet, but it will.
It will, because we've all planned it already, right?
Yeah. It's already ordained. It's a done deal.
Yeah. So the last thing I guess I want to talk to you about is the baddies.
The baddies.
Gordon, let's talk about the baddies and who the baddies are. Because I watched your recent video on the baddies.
Yeah, that was a question that one of the followers asked the subscribers and said, you know, can you ask the emissaries who the baddies are? And I thought, well, I probably haven't asked in detail about that. But just a point I want to make, I call them the baddies, and I know lots of people do, on purpose. I call them the baddies because they don't deserve any other than to be taken lightly. You know, because there's like, you know, all these names like the elites. God, that's a good name. You know,
even the Illuminati sounds quite fancy, doesn't it?
I prefer that name. I would prefer that to the elites. I mean, the Illuminati at least got a bit of woo, yeah. But the elites, I mean, they've made that name up. They have, because why would we do that? So that's why I call them the baddies, just because they're just the baddies, and they've got a role to play, and they're doing their role, and it's kind of like, you know, there's always goodies and baddies, isn't there? But the emissaries were saying they give me and they give me this in very, very quick order. What happens when I'm talking to them is that I ask a question, and I'm thinking, yeah, but I've already got a fair idea about this. But they answer me, go bam, 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 bam. So I haven't got time to kind of think, well, I've made that up. They just give me these answers. And they said, okay, so we've got the humans that have aligned themselves to the baddies on the earth, which we can see surrounded by them. Yeah. And then they said the non-humans that take the form of humans. Okay. Well, that, I mean, everything is nothing new, because David Icke was talking about that 30 years ago or whenever, you know, but they're a key part of them being here. And then the non-humans who are here, and they were saying you might call them aliens or whatever, that are here and involved as well. And then spirit beings as well that have, and that was what struck me, because they use wording sometimes that I think, what does that mean? And they said the spirit beings that have assigned themselves the role of working with the baddies, like they give themselves the job.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to do it, I suppose, haven't they?
Yeah, and maybe we've done it in the past too.
Well, absolutely. And you know, a long time ago, the emissary said to me, because they were talking about the karmic cycle. Okay, and I know there's lots of ideas about it, but they were just describing it in very simplistic terms, as in, you come in, you work on your frequency, and you do whatever you're going to do with your frequency. As you leave this life, that's the frequency that you come in the next life. Mm-hmm. So very, very standard kind of mathematical type of thing. But then I don't know, what was I going to come to? I was supposed to be going to bring you to another point. I got stuck in karma.
Talking about maybe we'd played those roles before.
Yeah. But they said the baddies have made the biggest sacrifice, much bigger than the sacrifice that the goodies have made. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, they know, because we're in this cycle where there isn't any, you can't, once you're in it, it's like when you join this race, you've got to go to the finish line. You cannot jump out. You can have a pause, but you can't get out of the race. That's what they were saying. And so they know that when they're going into this to be a baddie, they've got a very long journey, because they've got to come from a very low frequency, and they've got to build themselves up and get high until they can finish the race. And so they actually have sacrificed a lot. Like this time we'll be the baddies, and we know we're going to be stuck here for a long time. So it was a strange kind of way of looking at it, because we always want to hate the baddies, don't we? Mm-hmm. Boo, hiss.
Yeah.
But maybe maybe in the scheme of things, if we're all from source and we're all from God, then ultimately they're not baddies.
No. And we need that darkness to push up the light, don't we? This is what the whole contrast is about. And this is why we're moving up. They're pushing us. They're pushing us upwards. If it wasn't for them, what would we be doing?
Well, there wouldn't be any contrast. And, you know, I think I probably mentioned it, but when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I used to have to knock on people's doors and talk to them about paradise and say, would you like to live on a paradise on earth? You know, and show them pictures of a lion and a lamb and people, you know, all standing next to each other. Yeah. And people would say to me, I think I'd be really bored there. Yes. That looks really boring to me, you know. And I used to be like horrified. I used to be thinking, I think you're right, really, aren't you? So I think this is the problem. What I see, this cycle that we get into, Karen, is that when it's too good, we are the ones that bring the fall. We are the ones, because we sabotage ourselves, because we can't. We need contrast. Without contrast, we're dead.
Yeah. It is pretty boring, isn't it? If you think it's just all light and white and everything's light and white and you're light and white, you're just floating around in this space. Pretty dull.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more to it, But often I think about there's how are you feeling today? I'm actually really good. Or and tomorrow, how are you feeling? I'm really good as well. You think, oh, I mean, we like contrast. And if you believe, the work of Neil Walsh, there were conversations with God. The idea at the beginning was that God, whatever that is, wasn't able to experience itself because there was no contrast, and hence the fact that we were created to go off and seek contrast so that God could experience itself through us and our experiences.
That's a great book.
Mm.
So I would just want to leave everyone with some positive messages about how to move forward in the next year, 2 years. For me, it's just tuning into your intuition, tuning into your heart, letting go of all the distractions, focusing on yourself. Get any healing that you need. Could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can start
Mm-hmm.
small. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way to heal, and everybody needs healing. We all need healing. We're not super people. We have stuff, we have shit to deal with. I think there are a couple of things. One is you need to clear up the past, clear the past up, sort yourself out, sort out all of the embarrassments of the past, your disappointments, the people that you've hurt, the people that have hurt you. Get that sorted. Get on an even keel. Just become in the present moment. And then when you're in the present moment, find out what lights your fire. Find out what your bliss is.
Mm-hmm.
Find out what your purpose is, why you're here. And spoiler alert, here comes the purpose, why you're here, to help other people. But how does that translate into your life? And then do that. And I believe that if you do that, then you will find peace and joy and happiness in your life. Yeah, but you've got to sort the shit out first, because it's difficult to go forward when you're dragging a whole load of crap behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Get that cut. Didn't it? It's not a big job. Beautiful.
Well, I think we'll end it there. Thank you so much, Gordon, for joining me on this fabulous chat. It was really nice to connect. I would love to touch base in, I don't know, a few months or so and see where we're at again.
That would be lovely. Yeah, Karen, and we can talk about the latest developments in this wonderful path.
Yeah. I'd love that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye, everyone. And I'll see you soon. Bye.